Hello and welcome to Bellamy Author. In this video, I'm breaking down A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, chapters 35 to 69. This is part 2 of my complete summary. If you haven't seen part 1, which covers chapters 1 to 34, I've linked it in the description below. In this half of the book, Feyre's powers awaken, alliances shift, and everything she thought she knew about the Night Court will be challenged. Whether you're catching up or just need a refresher on the second half of the book, I've got you covered. Let's dive in. Chapter 35, Feyre identifies a building on the tidal causeway near Adriata that is only visible at low tide. During dinner with Tarquin, Cressida, and Varian, Feyre uses her Demati powers to enter Tarquin's mind. She manipulates his thoughts to believe she is harmless and kind, successfully diverting his suspicion by suggesting a trip to the mainland the next day. Rhysand and Amren enter Feyre's bedroom to finalize the heist for the following night. Rhysand notes that the site is likely warded against winnowing, meaning they must enter on foot. They decide to strike at low tide, with Rhysand monitoring from the sky to provide a visual mask while Feyre and Amren retrieve the object. Feyre practices water magic in her bathtub, making water animals flit through the room. The chapter ends as Rhysand tells Feyre, "I suggest you not show Tarquin that little trick in the bedroom," following a demonstration. Chapter 36, Feyre tours the mainland with Tarquin before preparing for the night heist. She dons Illyrian fighting leathers and is flown to the tidal causeway by Rhysand. Inside the temple ruin, Feyre and Amren dig through deep mud until they uncover a lead door. Feyre uses her powers to mimic Tarquin's essence, causing her skin to shift until the lock recognizes her as the High Lord. They descend a spiral staircase into an oily, waist-deep pool. After opening a second lead door using the same mimicry, they enter a dry chamber containing a pedestal. A lead box sits atop it, emitting a pulse of power. As Feyre snatches the box, an ancient, cruel voice hisses "Liar" through the air. The heavy lead door immediately slams shut, trapping Feyre and Amren inside the chamber as water begins to flood into the small stone space from the ceiling. Chapter 37, Amren uses her power to blast open the submerged door. The two swim through the flooding corridor but find the exit door sealed. Just as their air runs out, 3 water wraiths appear, tear the door away, and carry Feyre and Amren to a sandy cove. The wraiths state, "Our sister's debt is paid," honoring Feyre's earlier act of paying their tithe. Rhysand winnows the group back to the Valaris townhouse. Feyre places the lead box on the table and commands it to open by saying "please." The box clicks, revealing metal plates bound by rings of gold, silver, and bronze. Amren identifies the carved alphabet as Lashan Hakodesh, the Holy Tongue. Rhysand reveals his suspicion that the book contains a spell to return Amren to her original world. Osriel warns the group that they must still determine the King of Hybern's plan for Jurian. Chapter 38, Rhysand receives a box containing 3 blood rubies from the summer court, indicating that Tarquin has placed a price on their heads. Rhysand admits he made a mistake by not wiping the guards' memories. Later, Feyre and Rhysand engage in a flirtatious exchange regarding his household credit and a local lingerie shop. That night, a surge of darkness and wind erupts from Rhysand's bedroom, causing the house to groan. Feyre enters the room to find Rhysand in the throes of a nightmare. His power has manifested as a physical storm, and his body has partially shifted to feature talons and claws. Feyre slaps him to break the trance and uses her own darkness to soothe him. Once he awakens, he reveals his dreams were of memories from under the mountain. Feyre kisses his cheek and observes him kneeling on the bed, describing him as a dark, fallen prince. Chapter 39, Feyre delivers lamb blood to Amren, who continues decoding the book in her riverside apartment. Several weeks pass as Feyre undergoes physical training with Cassian and power mastery sessions with Rhysand. During these weeks, Feyre and Rhysand exchange written notes through their bond. Feyre admits she can no longer paint because her artist's soul feels empty. Rhysand shares his vision for a reformed night court where he wanted to eliminate the corruption that plagued the land. Eventually, the mortal queens agree to a summit. The inner circle travels to the Arcaran family estate to prepare. At 11 o'clock, 5 queens winnow into the sitting room accompanied by their guards. Rhysand identifies that a 6th queen is missing. The eldest queen, clad in blue wool, addresses Feyre as the emissary and demands to know the purpose of the meeting. The group gathers in the sitting room while Nesta and Ellen watch. Chapter 40. During the summit, the Golden Queen dismisses the Arcaran estate as a waste of resources and refuses to send defensive forces. The eldest queen labels Rhysand a mind-shatterer who tortures for sport. Feyre describes her death and the Hybern threat, begging for the human half of the book. Mor identifies herself as the Morrigan and reveals that Miriam and Draken are alive on a hidden island. The queens demand proof of Rhysand's benevolent intentions. Rhysand agrees to provide this proof but refuses to betray Miriam's location. Instead, he decides to use the Veritas, an ancient orb of truth magic, to reveal the existence of Valaris. The queens state they will consider the request once the proof is presented. As the meeting concludes, the queens winnow out of the house. Ellen breaks the subsequent silence by murmuring, "I hope they all burn in hell," while thumbing her iron engagement ring. Chapter 41. The Inner Circle debates the queen's demands back in Valaris. Rhysand decides the only way to convince them is to show them the city using the Veritas orb. He reveals the orb is currently held by Mor's family in the hewn city. The group plans a mission to the Court of Nightmares. Feyre, Mor, and Cashin will act as distractions while Azriel steals the orb from Kyr's private chambers. That night, Rhysand describes Mor's history to Feyre. He explains that Kyr attempted to sell Mor to heiress of the Autumn Court. To prevent the marriage, Mor slept with Cashin, leading her family to brutalize her and dump her on the border with a note nailed to her body. Azriel rescued her one day later. Feyre accepts the role of Rhysand's pet for the mission to facilitate the theft. She prepares to enter the mountain city. Chapter 42. En route to the hewn city, the group survives an ambush of ash arrows shot from the forest. Rhysand orders immediate aerial patrols before entering the mountain. The hewn city is a metropolis carved from dark stone featuring the Gates of Eternity. In the ebony throne room, Rhysand assumes the persona of a cruel tyrant while Feyre sits on his lap as his personal plaything. While they distract Kyr and the courtiers with a display of proprietary intimacy, Azriel successfully steals the Veritas orb. As the group prepares to depart, Kyr hisses at Feyre, calling her a whore. Rhysand retaliates by using his power to splinter the bones in both of Kyr's arms. The steward collapses in agony as Rhysand orders him dumped in his room without a healer. The Inner Circle then winnows away, leaving the steward prone on the ebony floor. Chapter 43. Rhys winnows Feyre to a mountain lake high above the world. They argue regarding the roles they performed at the Court of Nightmares. Rhys expresses his instinct to kill anyone who harms you. He winnows them to the Valaris townhouse. Feyre waits in the garden, but Rhys does not join her. The next day, Feyre visits Amren's apartment. Amren is decoding the Book of Breathings and explains that Rhys is hunting the people who attacked them. Amren reveals that the group will leave Valaris in 2 days to stay at an Illyrian war camp. She also explains that Starfall occurs tomorrow night, a celebration unique to the Night Court. Feyre writes 3 notes to Rhys using their magical bond, including calling him a hateful coward, but he does not respond. She waits as Nuala and Ceridwen arrive to help her prepare for the evening festivities. Chapter 44. Feyre wears a gown made of pale blue gems. Cashin flies her to the House of Wind while the city lights are extinguished. Mor explains her history with Cashin, stating they were together once when she was 17 to ensure she could choose her first lover. Rhys arrives and remarks that Feyre looks like a woman again. They observe Starfall, where thousands of spirits migrate across the sky. The crowd dances to music. Rhys takes Feyre to a private balcony. He explains the spirits' migration and admits he was serviced by Amarantha every starfall under the mountain. A star spirit hits Feyre, leaving green dust on her skin. She uses the dust to paint a star on Rhys's palm. Another spirit hits Rhys's face. They laugh together. Rhys admits he wished he could take back that kiss under the mountain. They eventually join the dance. Chapter 45. Mor winnows Feyre, Rhys, and Cashin to an Illyrian war camp. The camp contains tents around fire pits and permanent stone houses. Rhys orders Devlon to let the female Illyrians train before performing chores and clears his mother's old house for their stay. Rhys and Feyre fly to a forest clearing. Feyre practices magic by crafting water animals, freezing them into ice, and incinerating them with fire. Rhys tells the story of how Tamlin's father and brothers killed his mother and sister and kept their wings as trophies. He recounts how he and his father retaliated by killing Tamlin's family. Rhys reveals that Tamlin killed Rhys's father. Feyre experiences a surge of power, incinerating the clearing with flame before extinguishing it with wind and ice. She tells Rhys, "I want to paint you." Rhys suggests he should be nude for the portrait. Chapter 46. At an Illyrian war camp, Cashan, Mor, Rhysand, and Feyre Arcaran dine on mutton stew in a stone house. Mor and Cashan discuss the fight to allow Illyrian females to train in the rings before performing chores. They plan Mor's departure for the hewn city the following day. Rhysand and Feyre retreat to separate upstairs bedrooms. The next morning, Rhysand and Feyre fly to the forested steppes for magic training. Feyre brings a bow, quiver, and knives while Rhysand carries their packs. They reach a clearing near a gushing stream. Feyre signals Rhysand to stay back while she practices fire manipulation. While Feyre is distracted by notes sent through the bond, First Spring Court sentinels, including Bronn and Hart, surround her. Lucien Van Sarah stands between the sentinels and Feyre, having tracked her scent on the wind. Chapter 47. Lucien Van Sarah demands Feyre return home, claiming Tamlin has changed. Feyre refuses, citing her imprisonment in the manor. When Lucien lunges to touch and winnow her away, Feyre winnows herself behind the sentinels. Rhysand appears in fine clothes and dismisses the Spring Court group. Feyre shapeshifts, manifesting dark Illyrian wings and talons. She tells Lucien the darkness begins to stare back, and threatens to hunt the sentinels if they re-enter Night Court territory. Lucien warns Rhysand that his entire court is dead before winnowing away with Bronn, Hart, and 2 others. After they depart, Feyre's manifested wings and talons fade. Rhysand replaces his tunic with fighting leathers and wings. He scoops Feyre into his arms to fly to a wayfarer's inn. They soar low over the pine forest through freezing rain. Chapter 48. Rhysand and Feyre arrive at a small town containing an outfitter's store, supply store, and brothel. Rhysand mutes his High Lord power to appear as a common Illyrian warrior. They secure a cramped attic room featuring a slanted ceiling and a single bed. Feyre changes into dry leggings and a sweater. Rhysand brings a tray of rabbit stew and meat pie to the room. They share a bottle of wine while discussing Tamlin's actions and their mutual attraction. They extinguish the candles and share the bed for body heat. Rhysand cocoons Feyre in his wing. They engage in sexual activity where Rhysand uses his hands and mouth to bring Feyre to release. Afterward, Rhysand tastes her on his fingers. He states he will not do it all in one night and describes future scenarios. Chapter 49. Rhysand explains he made their bargain to keep her alive while spiting Tamlin. They fly throughout the day as Feyre practices elemental magic. At sunset, Hybern soldiers ambush them with poisoned ash arrows. Rhysand is struck and his wings are shredded. He winnows Feyre away to protect her before being captured. Feyre uses an air shield and winnowing to land safely and navigate the night forest. She shifts her eyes for night vision and tracks Rhysand's blood to a cave. Inside, she finds Rhysand chained with magic nullifying stone. Feyre kills the guards using daggers made from ash arrows. She winnows Rhysand to a riverbank cave where she removes 7 arrows from his wings. Rhysand identifies the poison as Bloodbane and the captors as Hybern agents before passing out. Chapter 50. Feyre monitors the cave while Rhysand remains unconscious with a fever. She captures the Surreal in a snare using her cloak as bait. The Surreal confirms the poison is Bloodbane and states the cure is Feyre's blood, which contains the Dawn Quartz healing gift. The Surreal reveals that Rhysand is Feyre's mate and has known for months. Feyre retrieves a pink-flowered weed to speed his recovery. Returning to the cave, she cuts her arm and makes Rhysand drink her blood. She also has him chew the weed. When she interrogates him, Rhysand admits he knew they were mates since her death under the mountain. He confesses he hid the truth to allow her happiness with Tamlin. Feyre demands they return to the Illyrian camp immediately. Rhysand winnows them into the mud outside their house. Chapter 51. Cashin and Mor assist the injured Rhysand while Feyre asks Mor to take her somewhere far away. Mor winnows Feyre to a warded log cabin situated between two mountain peaks. Mor explains the cabin is a family retreat and that Rhysand will likely try to find her. Feyre remains at the cabin alone to think. She bathes with smoke and pine-scented soap and eats soup and bread provided by Mor. Feyre reflects on her past with Tamlin, her attraction to Rhysand, and the implications of the mating bond. She explores the cabin's storage room, finding fishing gear, weapons, and old art supplies. She discovers half a dozen cans of fresh paint and brushes. Feyre opens a can of blue paint and begins gathering supplies to decorate the interior of the cabin. Chapter 52. Feyre spends a full day and night painting the interior of the cabin. She decorates the threshold with icicles that melt into spring shoots and summer blooms. She paints the mantel in black with gold and red veins to represent Illyrian wings. Above the hallway, she paints glowing silver eyes for Amren. Mor returns after 3 days with food and observes the work. Mor reports that Rhysand is recovering but angry that Mor hid Feyre's location. Mor describes the history of her family and the Court of Nightmares. Feyre adds honey brown eyes for Mor, hazel for Cashin, and blue for Osriel to the threshold. Mor asks if being Rhysand's mate is so bad, and Feyre replies, "No, it's not." Feyre continues painting every room in the cottage over the next 5 days. Chapter 53. Mor stays overnight at the cabin and paints 6 stick figures on the storeroom wall to represent their group. After Mor leaves, Feyre spends 5 days finishing the paintings in every room. She envisions a future in Velaris where she opens a shop to teach art to others while living with her friends and Rhysand. Feyre bathes and waits for Mor's scheduled return. A knock sounds at night, but Rhysand stands on the threshold instead of Mor. He is ruffled from flying and took a long route to avoid being tracked by Hybern agents. Feyre invites him inside. Rhysand examines the paintings and notes she included everyone in the inner circle except him. Feyre admits she was afraid to paint his eyes because she feared she would miss him too much. Chapter 54. Feyre offers Rhysand soup, a gesture he explains signifies accepting the mating bond. While he eats, Rhysand recounts his history. He details being tortured by Amarantha's forces during the war and witnessing Jurian's death. He describes his later failed attempt to assassinate Amarantha, resulting in the loss of his power and his 50-year enslavement to protect Velaris. Rhysand reveals he began seeing glimpses of Feyre painting through their bond 3 years prior. He explains he tracked her scent to Calamai and confirmed she was his mate when she died under the mountain. He confesses he hid the bond to allow her to choose happiness with Tamlin. Feyre sits in his lap and tells him that she loves him. She states she is honored to be his mate. Rhysand confirms his love for her. Chapter 55. Feyre Arcaran accepts the mating bond with Rhysand at the mountain cabin. They engage in sexual activity on the kitchen table and then in the bedroom. Rhysand kneels before Feyre on his tattooed knees. Feyre's skin manifests a warm and white light from the Daycourt power during their intimacy. They move to a sunken tub to bathe, where Feyre washes Rhysand's Illyrian wings. Rhysand explains that a priestess can verify the bond to declare them officially mated. He reveals that the mortal queens will return to Feyre's family estate in 3 days. Rhysand removes his power-dampening glamour, revealing glittering ebony power. They experience a physical frenzy throughout the night. Feyre decides to resume taking a contraceptive tonic. They leave the cabin the following morning. Chapter 56. Rhysand and Feyre winnow to the Illyrian war camp. Rhysand and Cashin engage in a physical brawl in the mud for 1 hour to manage Rhysand's frenzy. They return to Velaris and enter the dining room of the House of Wind. Mor, Osriel, Amren, and Cashin bow to Feyre and declare, "We will serve and protect." The inner circle dines together before departing for the mortal lands. Rhysand stays a few miles from the coast to avoid being tracked while Mor winnows Feyre to the shoreline of Hybern. They observe a crumbling castle of white stone built into bone-white cliffs. Osriel clarifies they have narrowed the cauldron's location to the lower levels of the stronghold. Rhysand promises Feyre that she will decide her own fate and choices forever. They prepare to enter the castle. Chapter 57, The Inner Circle meets the eldest and golden-haired queens at the Arcaran estate. Mor presents the Veritas Orb, which projects a picture of Velaris, showing the city, its people, and the rainbow. The queens state they will consider the alliance later. Nesta Arcaran demands they give Feyre the Book of Breathings to save the people in the mortal lands. Cashin promises Nesta he will stand on the battlefield to defend her house. After the queens winnow out, Rhysand discovers a lead box hidden beneath the chair where the Golden Queen sat. The box contains the second half of the book and a note stating the Golden Queen believes them. The note warns that the sixth queen was not ill. Feyre's sisters refuse to leave for Velaris, so Rhysand assigns soldiers to guard the estate. Chapter 58, Amren begins decoding the Golden Queen's half of the Book of Breathings at the townhouse. Rhysand and Mor winnow to the Court of Nightmares to return the Veritas to Kyr. Cashin and Osriel remain in Velaris to protect Feyre. Cashin and Feyre attend a symphony in the theater district. While walking back across a marble bridge, Feyre senses a tremor in the river current. A smear of black figures appears on the horizon moving from the sea toward the city. Cashin activates his black-scaled armor and 7 siphons. He provides Feyre with an Illyrian blade and a hunting knife. Cashin creates a red energy shield over Velaris. Hybern creatures, including the Adder, use blue stone gauntlets to punch through the magic shield. The Golden Queen's mutilated body is impaled on a lamppost. Chapter 59, Hybern soldiers begin a massacre in the streets of Velaris. Cashin and Osriel kill winged creatures in the sky while Amren uses mental illusions to kill soldiers. Feyre winnows into the Rainbow Quarter to defend the artists. She summons wolves of water from the Sidra River to drown and decapitate the invading force. She turns the water into ice, causing dozens of airborne soldiers to shatter on the cobblestones. Feyre winnows through the sky to intercept the Adder as he attempts to flee. She slams into him and plunges poisoned ash arrows into his wings. She wraps herself around the Adder, becomes a living flame, and drags him into a free fall. Feyre stabs the Adder 3 times with her dagger. She winnows out before hitting the ground, and the Adder shatters. Chapter 60, Rhysand announces Velaris is secure and wards are remade. The Inner Circle gathers at 3 a.m. while Cashin and Osriel heal from their injuries. Amren agrees to stay in Velaris to defend the city. Feyre and Rhysand make love on the roof of the townhouse. The next afternoon, Amren provides a written spell to nullify the cauldron. She warns that putting both halves of the book together will draw ancient enemies. The group plans to winnow to the coast of Hybern and fly into the castle. Rhysand agrees that Feyre will go into the stronghold with the Illyrians while he stays outside to avoid being tracked. Rhysand gives Feyre his mother's ring, which she retrieved from the weaver's cottage. Feyre leaves the ring in its box, stating she will wear it after the cauldron is neutralized. Chapter 61, Feyre, Rhysand, Mor, Osriel, and Cashin prepare to depart for Hybern. Amren remains behind to guard Velaris. Rhysand winnows with Cashin and Osriel, dropping them off before the coast. Mor winnows Feyre to the shoreline of Hybern. The group observes a crumbling castle of white stone built into bone-white cliffs. They land at a sea door where Mor is waiting with her sword out. Osriel kills the guards in the entrance hall with an ash knife. Feyre tracks the cauldron's power through an ancient dungeon and down several levels of stairs. Mor stays at Feyre's side as the last line of defense. Cashin and Osriel continue to clear guards as they move through the stronghold. They reach a round chamber beneath the castle. Feyre identifies the cauldron sitting on a dais in the center of the room. Chapter 62, The Iron Cauldron sits on 3 thorn-branched legs. Feyre Arcaran steps onto the dais and touches the cauldron's lip. She feels a map for creation and power flow into her blood. Feyre brings both halves of the Book of Breathings together. She becomes a conduit between the book and the cauldron while Mor and Cashin watch. Her nose begins to bleed as the items commune through her. Feyre attempts to speak the nullifying spell she memorized. Strong hands yank Feyre away from the dais, and she finds Osriel shaking her. Her nose continues to bleed as her head clears. Footsteps sound on the stairs above the chamber. Azriel positions himself in front of Feyre with his blade lifted. A handsome brown-haired male with round ears descends the steps. Feyre identifies the figure as the resurrected Jurian. Chapter 63, Rhysand takes the Book of Breathings from Feyre Karen in the cauldron chamber. Jurian mocks Rhysand regarding his time under the mountain and demands to know Miriam's location. Moore states Miriam is dead. Rhysand attempts to winnow the group out, but his magic is locked by a spell from the King of Hybern's book. A wall of foreign, unfeeling stone severs Feyre's mental connection to Rhysand. The king appears at the top of the stairs. Jurian fires a hidden ash bolt through Azriel's chest. Rhysand and Cashin haul the poisoned spymaster upstairs as his blood splatters the floor. They enter a throne room containing a throne assembled from human bones. The King of Hybern announces that a bargain has been upheld as Tamlin and Lucien Van Serra emerge from the shadows. Chapter 64, the King of Hybern reveals he bargained to return Feyre Karen to Tamlin in exchange for passage through Spring Court territory to invade the mortal lands. He commands the bond between Rhysand and Feyre to be broken. Rhysand remains silent to conceal the scent of their mating bond. Feyre unravels the magic restricting her power by telling the spell, "You do not hold me." Tamlin lunges for Feyre, but she winnows away and Rhysand punches him in the face. Tamlin realizes Rhysand and Feyre are mates. Hybern soldiers fill the throne room, and the king's magic stifles Feyre's powers once more. The king reveals 4 mortal queens who have arrived with their guards. The queens part to reveal Nesta and Ellen Karen, who have been brought into the room gagged and bound in torn nightgowns. Chapter 65, the King of Hybern reveals that Ianthe betrayed the location of Nesta and Ellen Karen to facilitate a demonstration for the mortal queens. He unleashes a blast of white power that shreds Cashin's wings and incapacitates the inner circle. Guards haul Ellen to the cauldron and submerge her. When the cauldron is tipped, Ellen washes onto the stones as a high fae with pointed ears. Lucien Van Serra removes his jacket and wraps it around Ellen, whispering, "You're my mate." Nesta thrashes against her captors, pointing a finger at the king as a death promise before she is shoved into the water. She emerges transformed into a powerful high fae and screams, "Get off her," while slamming into Lucien to retrieve Ellen. Tamlin and Lucien are leashed by the king's power throughout the event. Chapter 66, Rhysand attempts to make a bargain, but Feyre Karen drops to her knees and unleashes her Cursebreaker light to identify and sever the castle's wards. She feigns a mental breakdown, pretending Rhysand used the bond to manipulate her, and runs to Tamlin. Feyre begs the King of Hybern to break the bond, including both the bargain and the mating bond. Tamlin demands the king fulfill their deal by releasing Feyre and her sisters. Rhysand repeatedly shouts no to maintain the deception that he is losing control of her. The king utilizes his magic to cleave the connection between them. A crack sounds in Feyre's ears as the bargain bond snaps, causing the world to cleave in two. Rhysand roars in apparent agony on the floor before crawling toward his brothers through a pool of Cashin's blood. Chapter 67, Feyre Karen wakes from a brief faint to find Tamlin has removed her left glove, revealing her bare skin without the bargain tattoo. The King of Hybern declares Rhysand and his friends are free to go because Azriel's poison is gone. Moore winnows to the sisters and carries them through the severed wards while Rhysand winnows out with the injured Azriel and Cashin. The king realizes his wards were sabotaged and discovers that Feyre does not have the Book of Breathings. He demands to know its location, but Feyre replies, "Your mistake." Before Tamlin winnows her away, Feyre promises the king, Jurian, and the queens, "I will light your pyres myself for what you did to my sisters." Tamlin uses his magic to transport himself, Lucien Van Serra, and Feyre back to the Spring Court. Chapter 68, Rhysand, Cashin, and Azriel land on the floor of the Valaris townhouse. Amren and Moore immediately begin tending to the brothers' life-threatening injuries. Rhysand reveals that Feyre Karen is not truly broken, she is a spy, with a direct line to me who intends to destroy the king from within. He explains that while the king broke the bargain, the mating bond is a permanent soul connection that cannot be broken. Rhysand further reveals that he secretly swore Feyre in as High Lady of the Night Court the night before the mission. Her status as his equal is marked by a second tattoo on her right arm, currently concealed by a glamour. As Mor and Amren finish stabilizing Azriel and Cashin, Rhysand watches his mates' love shudder down their hidden bond and declares, "We go to war." Chapter 69, Tamlin brings Feyre Karen back to the Spring Court Manor, which she describes as a pretty, rose-covered prison. Feyre continues her deception, claiming her time at the Night Court was a nightmare from which she was finally freed. She reflects on her hatred for Tamlin, calling him a traitor, liar, murderer for allying with Hybern. Despite her internal rage, she communicates a gentle, loving stroke of affection to Rhysand through their hidden bond. Lucien Van Sarah interrogates her about how she broke free of Rhysand's control, but Tamlin orders him to stop. Feyre asks to be included in court affairs to help retrieve her sisters. Tamlin apologizes and promises to start over. The book concludes as Feyre gives Lucien a sweet, sleepy smile while internally preparing to lead the Spring Court into a trap. And that's how A Court of Mist and Fury ends. If you missed part 1 covering chapters 1 to 34, check the link in the description. And if you want to see me break down the next book in the series, let me know in the comments. What did you think? Have you read this book? Let me know in the comments if you loved it, hated it, or fell somewhere in between. If you want more book summaries like this, hit that subscribe button. I post new breakdowns every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.